on the Gulf of Carpentaria, Berkshire, in this particular episode of Travel Oz. The waters of the Gulf of Carpentaria and the Albert River out here. Plenty of fish in those croc-filled waters. The bubbling thermal springs here in Burke Town. And we're off to a bush dance and a picnic race meeting. All ahead in this episode of Travel Oz. Hello, welcome. I'm Greg Granger.
Also ahead in the next two episodes featuring Berkshire, the marvellous morning glory cloud, a wonder of nature that rolls in every spring. Indigenous hunting for crocs and giant prawns. Meet Aboriginal legend Murrindoo. Paddling the Gregory River, an annual event. And Hell's Gate, the legendary last settlement before reaching the Northern Territory. Coming up as we explore Berkshire. The boiling hot waters that bubble up from the Great Artesian Basin around Berkshire's biggest settlement, Burke Town, sustain a big population of agile wallabies. Once those waters have cooled, cattle too are watered downstream, even in the worst of droughts. Because it does get very dry at times here, especially when the summer floods recede and the sun beats down. It's out on the salt flats, among a collection of totem poles erected by the Aboriginal community, that we get to meet some of the local population. These Aboriginal families have lived in Burketown all their lives and are now rearing 2 orphan dingo pups. This is very much a community where peoples of all backgrounds live and work together in harmony, from the kids at Burketown's preschool to the families and jockeys at the annual race meeting.
Berkshire is the model multicultural remote community in Australia. People live here happily together. We're trying to create something that can show people around Australia how people can live together in harmony with each other and with nature.
Among the locals who've grown up in this community, the well-known actor Alec Doumagy.
The land up here is something that just is magical, it's spiritual, and it's medicine. You and I are sitting in this sacred medicine circle right here now. This is a sacred dance circle that we created for those special performances. And what we do out here is we create medicine.
Not only is this a widely recognised place of harmony, it's also one where members of the Aboriginal community are able to very successfully straddle the best of both worlds, as we're about to discover. The Australian bush and fire have been inextricably linked since the dawn of time. Fires ignited by lightning strikes have helped regenerate the Australian landscape, a practice understood and perpetuated by Aboriginal communities for a very, very long time.
Millennia, at least 65,000 years.
We're meeting Berkshire elder Murrindoo.
It's like fire stick farming, managing country. It's not about bushfire mitigation or things like that. That's a very simplistic view. It's about managing country, ensuring there's always good food there, the safe pathways. Many of the trees in Australia won't even germinate their seeds without a bushfire going through first, so that's resistant to fire. So it's a holistic approach to fire management. Fire's not our friend or enemy, it's just a tool. It's there and you use it.
Is there not a danger of bushfire here?
No, that's why we're burning early. Because if we leave it like this later in the year, it's got a good chance of spreading, even from a lightning strike or a careless cigarette or something. So by the earlier burns, it's called mosaic burning. I burn in patches, and that does several things. It prevents a larger bushfire spreading later because of the earlier burn. And as all this grass dies on the one side, this stuff I burned earlier has got new nutritious green shoots coming up for the animals to feed on. It also creates a biodiversity pathway, so the area that was unburned, as that gets caught on in a bushfire and can't travel through, so other animals can at least travel through that earlier burnt country safely.
Trained as an ABC journalist.
Yeah, don't hold that against me. They're a good mob.
But you're also living, part of the time, the traditional way.
Absolutely. Yeah, the majority of Aboriginal people in the Lower Gulf are living in that lifestyle. Best of both worlds.
Murrindoo knows well what healthy foods flourish in this harsh bushland.
We're looking for this fella here. This little vine will lead us to him. There he is. There's a couple more in here, well hidden from the wallabies and turkeys that eat them. There's another one, hidden in the grass.
Well, you've got sharp eyes. You picked 3 in a couple of seconds there.
Oh,
look at that, 4.
4, let's just give him a little wipe to fuzz off the bloody thing. like a peach. This is what we call in our language, the Gungalita language, a jungala. It's basically a bush cucumber. The Latin name, what science or whitefellas call it, is Cucumis melanus, a cucumber melon.
Yep.
So it's a little bush tugger, good stuff.
You're chewing the whole thing?
Oh, bloody hell, get into it, mate.
You eat the whole thing?
Absolutely. Good as any bloody cucumber you'd find in Sydney or Brisbane or anywhere. Have another one.
They're not bad, actually.
Yeah.
Nearby, the seemingly endless salt flats that border the waters of the Gulf of Carpentaria are also the site of some Aboriginal totem poles, carrying symbols of native wildlife precious to the Aboriginal people.
Yeah, Ngiwian, the saltwater crocodile, Ngulimiti, the barramundi. They're, we just put on animals we're eating, totemic beings, Dalwagi, the brolga. It's all part of our stargazing site here, just a bit of a nice backdrop. Now, traditionally in Arnhem Land here, it's more a backdrop for our stargazing site. Wallaloo, the rainbow serpent. Bijarbanda, the dugong, very popular staple food in the Gulf. And Bangara, the green sea turtle.
Many of the creatures symbolised here provide substantial meals to the Aboriginal community.
We get a lot about healthy stuff off them, because when you eat an animal, you're not just eating the animal, you're eating whatever he's eating, the cumulative benefit of that. So for this fellow, all the jellyfish and seaweed he's eating, that has medicinal value. And one of these dugong, Bijarbanda the dugong would feed 300 people. One of these fellows would feed 200 people, the Bangara, the sea turtle, and we waste nothing on them. We would even eat the shell if it's soft enough, but we don't waste the shell. We preserve that and use it as a artistic board. Put Aboriginal paintings on it and stuff, varnish it up, it's lovely.
Murrindoo promises to take us hunting tonight, but first, under the fading light of yet another glorious outback sunset, it's Didge time.
So you've mastered that circular breathing, Murrindoo.
Yeah, Ab. Good for your health. Try to play it at least a couple of times a week. Sometimes I play it to entertain people. I often like to do it for the sake of doing it out bush on my own. For a bloke who smokes like a bushfire, it's very good for the lungs. A little bit like circular, bit like swimming or riding a bike, I guess.
What Murrindoo and several hundred of his colleagues have done is create a community here in Berkshire that is giving them a healthy management and control of residents.
Yeah, we're doing phenomenal work. We own a lot of the business.
Darkness sees Murrindoo in traditional hunting mode. He's taken us to a waterway prolific in marine creatures. This is Escott Crossing. Within seconds, he's out of his four-wheel drive and straight into the water to make a catch by hand.
Got one little bloke, little freshie. You want to see a magic trick when you get attacked by a croc? Stay calm and do this. Put him in a state of suspended animation.
So you've caught the croc, what's next?
We're going to try and catch some giant freshwater prawns. The terrapin, they call them.
In fact, Murrindoo's next catch is a file snake. And just watch how he proves it's harmless.
File snake. Literally. World's friendliest snake. You wouldn't hurt a fly. Look at that, a stuck his head in my mouth. Reason they call him a file snake, he's got no scales on his skin and that's like a rasp. And he's quite a friendly chap. Let's have a look at him. Look at that. Wouldn't hurt a fly.
Back into the water, scooping them up with his hands, a giant freshwater prawn known as a cherubin.
Good fresh tucker, eh? Didn't have to pay an exorbitant rate at a flash shop.
You've been in that water for about 2 minutes or so?
Yeah.
And you've pulled all these out?
Yeah.
How are you going to eat these?
Well, I'm having off night tonight. Normally I'd have a bloody 30 or 40, but well, you can cook them on the coals because they've got a nice thick shell. Yeah. They'll steam in their own juice. You can boil them like you do with prawns at the barbie. Or I recommend for a bit of culinary delight, you cut them in half and fry them in a bit of lemon, butter and garlic. Exquisite.
My cooking choice later is the good old-fashioned Aussie barbecue.
Memories of Murrindoo. Let's give it a taste.
Of all of Berkshire's features, it's the profound effects of nature that are most remarkable, from above and below. From deep, deep underground, 700 metres to be exact, water cascades upwards to the surface in what's known as the Burktown Bore. Flowing straight out of the Great Artesian Basin, it reaches the surface at 68 degrees Celsius and flows to surrounding marshland, providing life-giving drinking water to cattle and wildlife in times of drought. Overhead, meanwhile, there's another phenomenon of nature that's found here in Berkshire. You're watching the Morning Glory Cloud, a rare meteorological event that can be seen here in September and October. This thin line of cloud rolls in at a very low altitude, often only 100 metres above the ground, and stretches for up to 1,000 kilometres. Chris Kruger is a pilot based in Burktown who's flown around it many times.
It usually sets in around the end of September to about late November. If you're lucky, you might spot them in October, but yeah, the Morning Glory Clouds is probably the biggest attraction of Burktown. They call the Morning Glory Clouds, of course, for the morning. You know, they're much more pronounced in the morning due to the saturation of the air, and it's actually one of the only places in the whole world that you get to experience Morning Glory Clouds.
What's created this formation?
So basically, when the two air masses collide head-on, what takes place is known as convection. As these air masses rise and temperature drops and there's enough saturation in the air, we get the amazing Morning Glory Cloud.
Chris's flights also take him along the shoreline bordering the Gulf of Carpentaria. This is a coastline broken up by dozens of rivers and creeks, forming an artistic pattern best observed from up high here. In the dry season, salt pans stretch for hundreds of kilometres, covered by water when the summer rains flood them.
So it's a beautiful sight to see, and you know, during the seasons we get tourists come up from down south and we take them out on scenics and they get to witness it and experience the amazing scenery.
Not only the salt pans, we're watching so many creeks, not only the Albert River, but so many other major rivers alongside that, close to it, but also smaller rivers flowing into the Gulf of Carpentaria.
They're mighty big, these cattle stations up around the Gulf. Exploring further afield in Berkshire, we check out some of the huge cattle stations up here around the Gulf. This one, Gregory Downs, is 250,000 hectares, 3 times as big as Canberra. It's centred around the banks of the permanently flowing Gregory River, 85 kilometres of river frontage, meaning there's water aplenty for the 30,000 Brahman cattle here. The station homestead is a picture of abundance, with flowering gardens and lawns aplenty for the youngsters to pass a rugby ball. Further north on the banks of the Leichhardt River sits another imposing cattle property, Floraville Station. This one's been in the family of Ernie Camp for more than 50 years. Ernie's a fixture here. He's been the mayor for 4 terms.
G'day, I'm Ernie Camp, Mayor of Berkshire. Welcome to the Shire.
Floraville, your property?
That's correct, well, the family property, yes.
So you'd know the Gulf Territory and raising cattle very well.
Yeah, I believe I do.
And of course, you're running cattle here. How many?
We're running a little bit lighter than usual at the moment, but around about 8,000.
So you're basically a cattle farmer. How is life on the land?
It has been quite good. Cattle prices are best they've been.
Ernie's Floraville Station has been the site of some big fossil finds. Ernie himself has uncovered bones from a giant Diprotodon.
Oh, in this place here, exactly where we're standing here, a Diprotodon was found, the most complete species of the Diprotodon. And interesting, when they did recover the skeleton, they actually found some teeth of the Megalania, which was quite a large lizard, much the same size, or actually a little bit larger than those in Indonesia.
So the Komodo dragons, there would have been a giant lizard like the Komodo dragon that's actually attacked the Diprotodon and left some of its teeth in there.
That's right, scavenging, of course. So yes, it wouldn't be a place to go camping.
Later this morning, Ernie takes me for a chopper ride around Floraville. Here's the Leichhardt Falls, an opportunity to fly low and slow over a flow that makes its way to the nearby Gulf of Carpentaria.
At pretty low at the moment, but when full flood, it's 11 metres above those falls.
Downstream, flocks of brolgas wing skywards. They're the largest water bird in southeastern Australia, with flocks numbering up to 12,000 birds.
And then finally, to put this chopper to work, we're going to round up some of your cattle, some of your 8,000 head of cattle.
Yeah, well, we certainly didn't move 8,000 head, but we wanted to give a paddock a spell, so we moved them from one paddock into another paddock to let that paddock recover. We run a bit of everything, Brahmins, Seneca Cruisers and Charbreys.
These cattle are ideally suited to the harsh conditions of the Gulf, with stock numbers fluctuating depending on the season. It's good times now because after 5 years of devastating drought, the rains have fallen in abundance. Grass for the cattle to feed on is at last flourishing. Later that day, Ernie takes me to one of Queensland's most scenic national parks, Boodmajalla, surrounding the picturesque Lawnhill Gorge, a vibrant ribbon of green through the surrounding plains. This outback oasis is a favourite for people wanting to canoe its cool waters.
Rather cool now.
For me, it's an opportunity to be pummeled below its short but powerful waterfalls. For Ernie, this is a true outback paradise.
The waters come from springs and they come from the tableland.
The Barkly tableland, again, bordering the Queensland and Northern Territory border.
So there's a lovely falls here of a couple of metres. I can get underneath the water there and refresh myself after all this walking.
Yeah, the falls is actually built up, in a sense, with tufa. And tufa is basically, the water here is full of minerals, mainly lime, and of course the tufa then builds up on the water steady down on those logs and create a substance that does look like rock.
There's no doubt that Berkshire is tiny in many respects. Just 550 people live here. And yet the Shire punches well above its weight in so many ways. Take innovation. The Council has just won a top award for innovation for its innovative work on health and safety training during the 4-month COVID lockdown, when no one was allowed in or out of the Shire.
Hi, we're the Marshall sisters, and we love Burketown because of the lifestyle.
The Council is also helping residents to raise finance to buy their own houses.
The Council, through CEO Claire Keenan, was able to speak to Westpac and get them on board to lend money out here to help us buy our own houses, so it's been a great initiative.
And then there's the passport. Yes, Berkshire is introducing a passport. Murrindoo was embracing that with the executive behind all these innovations, Claire Keenan.
We're bringing them back, and it's to support our small businesses that have done it hard during COVID, when all our borders were shut. But it also gives people a sense of community. It gives people a sense of belonging. It'll educate them to what we have here, and they will always feel part of us, and they'll always have that sense of loyalty.
One of the many local businesses taking part in this new passport program is the Turana Roadhouse, where owner Jill Wilson is today nursing an orphaned agile wallaby.
This is Ruby, our wallaby. Her mother got killed in a car accident, and tourists brought her in here, and she was quite large and had fur, and that's, you know, a good indication that they can survive. So we kept her and fed her some special Roo milk, and yeah, now she just lives here and enjoys coming into my kitchen asking for a carrot every now and again.
Jill's home is almost a zoo, so many animals here. The passing families love to interact with.
Yeah, we've got some animals here that we love and care for, and yeah, we've got one of each and adding to to the menagerie every day. So yeah, we've got some geese. They're better than a guard dog. They follow out every time they see someone. We've got pigs, chicken, ponies, turkeys, and the wallaby.
As for the passport program,
we hope that we get to see and meet a lot of tourists that are coming into our shire, and as part of the passport program they can collect stamps here at Turana, and they will also collect a freebie that we're working on with council and the shire, and yeah, that gives them the opportunity to visit every business in the shire and see what's out there. Yeah.
Around Burketown there are many local businesses who are taking part in this new passport program. Among them, Savannah Lodge. This is like a resort in Bali. Tropical gardens, long trails winding through the rainforest, and an outdoor bar for guests to chill out in. Owner-operator here is Amanda Wilkinson.
We've been here for 30 years now, which sounds a long time.
Wow, so a big part of your life, and there's obviously some appeal here.
Oh, it's a beautiful place to be, yes, a lovely area, and yeah, we've made this our home, and yeah, no turning back.
And the reasons? 3 big reasons for living here.
For living here, just the natural beauty of the place and the environment and what we've created here too, which is close to our heart.
Close to your heart, and I've got to say it's close to my heart. I feel like I'm in Bali. You've created such a tropical atmosphere.
Yes, it is. It's a big surprise to everyone that comes here.
As for the passport program,
I think the purpose of the passport is that somebody will come here, they get a little stamp in their passport, so people quite like to gather up things like that, and with that they also get a souvenir and a discount on a meal or a free drink.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for having me here. Really enjoyed it. Been here a week, could stay a year.
Good.
in our next episode, we'll return to Berkshire for some celebrations. It's the annual race day in the township of Gregory, and it's not just the horses that are racing. There's a bush dance to let your hair down at day's end, and a major canoe and kayaking event down the Gregory River. We'll call in on a tiny community called Hell's Gate, catch fish in the Gulf of Carpentaria and cook them the traditional way, and explore the fossil fields of Riverslea. All ahead when we next travel Oz.